I just wanted more, but I had no idea why. I just had this feeling inside that I wanted more for me.
Yeah.
And you're doing it, and then all of a sudden you're going, actually, I'm not that bad at it. That's good, but obviously you keep that inside your head. I'm still learning. To be honest, you never stop learning, and you never know what happens in life and where you're going to end up. I still turn up to events.
Yeah.
And I think, oh God, there's like the I don't know, the head of Amazon Studios, there's like the commissioning editor of the BBC, and you're sitting there going, oh my God, these people are serious.
Yeah, and I'm like,
and I'm like nothing like that. And then they start talking to you, and they're going, oh my God, I thought of this, and I was really scared when I had to talk. And you're like, what? You? Seriously? Is no one actually talking about how you get from your education to the actual job? I started something called the NV Academy, which is basically educating people about what we do. Now we do, sort of hundreds of work experience placements every year within NV, and we've given I'd say about 1,500 people the opportunity to get in, work in television and grow. People think, oh, how did you get where you get?
Yeah.
It's never just a straight road. It's just like all over the place. It takes one thing, just, and then that's it, and off you go. Is this as nerve-wracking for you as it is for me?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes,
I'm glad. I'm glad.
No, the one that's coming out today is actually, oh my God, is that, I have a sweat spot. No, the one that's going out today is with my, teacher mentor. So, I literally taught with her for, months, and I was so nervous for that one. Because normally, I don't really know, I don't know them well.
Yeah.
So many times people are sat on my couch. It's the first time I've ever met them in my life. So I'm like, it's fine. I'll just learn things about you. But when I knew her, it was like,
oh, yeah.
You have, a relationship with someone, and then you, switch it to something else. And it was like...
Yeah, the dynamics change.
Yes.
Totally.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh.
But it was good. So hopefully, it's honestly one of the longest ones we've had because we just kept chatting. But again, the cameras failed on that one too, so,
It's not recording.
And that would be unfortunate. Alrighties, everyone. Fabulous. I'll do a little spiel at the beginning. Cadle. Wonderful. Alrighties. Stupid thing. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Seasoned Professional. My name is Hannah Octavia, and I am here today with the lovely Natascha Cadle. No, I knew it in my head, but then I got scared that I was going to say Cadle. Cadle. Natascha Cadle.
I shouldn't have interrupted. That's
no,
terrible.
No. That's not terrible. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm very honoured to be here.
Of course. We have been blessed with a beautiful day outside today. So
absolutely amazing.
We're going to be quick with this. We're going to get all of our conversation. Well, not quick. Yeah. Okay. Already there's a sexual innuendo in this conversation. Oh God. Let's get back on track, I suppose. And we will grab your picture down from the wall there.
Wow, yeah.
There we are.
We are.
Tell our lovely listeners what is going on here.
Well, I guess I got to give you a little bit of background on myself. So I'm Natascha Cadle. I was born in Holland, in the Netherlands. And I've been in the UK since I was 18. And this particular picture obviously was taken in the Netherlands, in Scheveningen, which is the seaside resort of The Hague, where I grew up. And this is literally on our balcony in the summer, and it was just really lovely weather. I just had a very lovely childhood from what I can remember. We weren't, we lived all in one room. So me and my mum and dad all lived in this one room. Yeah. And downstairs was my great grandmother lived downstairs, and we didn't have a bathroom, which sounds really weird. Huh. We all washed in the kitchen. Yeah. And it was just, we didn't have much money, and it was, we weren't well off, but I always remember it being very, very lovely. And my parents were very, very young when they had me. They were 20 and 21. So it's kind of, I still, my parents are still alive, and it's kind of like, quite special, really, in a way,
Yeah.
because I'm 57 and they're, you know, just sort of late 70s. So I'm
Wow.
quite lucky, really, in a way, that they're still around. And it must be quite tough for at their age, you know, to have like a young child. And my father was, although he had a career as a decorator, he was also in a band. And that's
No
how my
way.
mum, yeah, that's how my mum and dad
Wow.
met. So my
Yeah.
mum is German. She is from Landshut, which is near Munich. And my dad was literally touring Germany,
Oh my gosh.
playing in a band.
Yeah.
And they met in a cocktail bar, effectively. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of what happened. And my mum moved to the Netherlands
Yeah.
and had to learn Dutch. I mean,
Wow.
Dutch and German are quite close, but still it's a different language. So yeah, my mum learned Dutch, and I grew up in Holland.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I moved to the UK when I was 18. Yeah.
Wow. And were you an only child?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mum had a miscarriage, I think. So, but yeah, it was just one of those kind of things. I don't know, maybe not meant to be, but yeah, I'm an only child,
Yeah.
which has its advantages, but also disadvantages.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, it's good. I mean, you know, my dad's side of the family was so my grandma, I guess, is British. So there's a real mixture there. So although I'm born in the Netherlands, I have British, German, and Polish, I believe,
Wow.
in there as well somewhere. So yeah, proper European mixture
Yeah.
of nationalities. So yeah.
When your mum met your dad in that cocktail bar, did she like follow him on the rest of the tour? What
No.
happened? How did they rekindle things?
So my mum worked in this particular bar.
Ah, I see.
So, and in fact, she was not particularly interested.
It's always the way it is,
Yeah.
isn't it?
And then no, he ended up touring, and they did rekindle. I'm not entirely sure how they met up again, but
Yeah.
yeah, obviously it kind of worked out because she did move to, you know, the Netherlands to be with him. So yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I mean, you know, people meet each other all over the world now. I mean, now
Yeah.
much more so than then, because the travel's obviously a lot easier now, and there's a lot more, you know, global things going on. Especially, you know, the internet's opened everything up, social media's opened everything up. In those days, that wasn't the case at all.
Yeah,
you
it was
know.
just
yeah,
who was in
yeah.
your town kind of
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, and it's quite unusual. I mean, in Europe, I think in those days, you tend to stay where you were. It's very rare that people would say, "Oh, I'm going to venture out and live in America or venture out and live in Australia."
Okay.
So where I was in the Netherlands, in Scheveningen, most people, all my friends,
Yeah.
stayed.
Wow.
So it wasn't, you know, I mean, it's a nice place, you know, it's lovely.
Yeah.
But I felt I just wanted more, but I had no idea why. I just had this feeling inside that I wanted more for me, but I don't know. I was so young. I had no idea what it was. I just felt that I needed to do something different, something more, and I don't know what it was. And weirdly enough, my journey to the UK, I'm jumping ahead here
No,
before.
Don't worry,
was
I'll
very
bring us
odd.
back.
Yeah, it's in the Netherlands, we had a show called Sky Tracks, which is actually Sky channel.
Like Sky Channel, yeah.
Was only then transmitting to Europe, and
Oh,
it was. We're talking a long time ago.
Yeah.
That was in the early 80s, basically.
Okay.
And so my dad had written in
Yeah.
to this particular show
Yeah.
and said that, you know, I want my daughter to be part of this show, because what happened
Yeah.
is you had to basically guess a scrambled up pop video. So what they
Okay.
did is they showed you this pop video, and you had to basically guess what it was, and you won a prize.
Okay.
So at the time, you had a lot of sort of British Radio 1 DJs used to work for this show. You had like Gary Davis, Tony Blackburn, Pat Sharp, Amanda Reddington. These were all DJs that were literally VJs for Sky for this particular program. So I had a call from Gary Davis,
Yeah.
and saying, "Hi, I'm Gary Davis. Your dad's written into the show."
Had you known? Did he
No,
written in? Oh gosh.
No, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And he said, would you like to be, part of this show? And I was like, I thought, is this a joke? What's going on?
What?
So I went, yes, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So my dad had sent the letter, sent my picture in.
Yeah.
So there was a camera locked off on my picture because that's how it worked in those days.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, And then, so anyway, I guessed this video was Pointer Sisters, and I won this prize, which is like a Skytrax jacket, and I had various other little prizes, I didn't get them for like months.
Interesting.
Which is kind of like, okay. So
Yeah.
my dad said, should we like visit, because I had some family in the UK. He said, when we go and visit the family, should we go to the studios and see what happened to all your prizes?
Yeah.
So I went, yeah, sure. Can you imagine doing that now? You're turning up to a TV studio.
Yeah,
They'll
be
go,
like,
excuse me, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But at the time they went, oh, hi, yeah, come in, and showed us around.
Yeah.
And the studios, and it was really fun. And then this guy kept sort of staring at me, and I was just looking at him going, what's he looking at?
And how old were you at this point?
17.
Okay.
And he came up to me, said, I know you. I said, well, I don't know you because I'm from the Netherlands, so,
Yeah.
He
Who are
said,
you?
He said, oh, yeah, my camera was on your photo when you were part of this competition.
Yeah.
And, I mean, to cut a long story short, he asked me out. And
Wait, is this your husband?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I was like, oh my God.
This was a long time ago.
Oh, okay.
And he asked me out, and we went backwards and forwards from the UK to the Netherlands, and then he sent me a first-class one-way ticket to the UK. And I went, oh, okay,
All right,
do that then.
fine.
So that's how I ended up in the UK.
Wow.
But I had family here, so
Yeah.
it was good because it wasn't completely like I was on my own with
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
So I had an uncle and family here. So yeah, it was good. So
Wow.
yeah.
That's crazy. And when you got like all this happened kind of serendipitously almost, did you said that you had this feeling of wanting more.
Yeah.
Did you anticipate it being the UK, or was it just like a feeling of wanting more?
Yeah, it was a feeling of wanting more. I never set out to go to the UK as such, but I just kind of early on knew I wanted to work in TV, and I don't necessarily know why. And there wasn't much of it in Holland or the Netherlands. I should keep saying Holland, the Netherlands, because Holland's actually two provinces. You've got North Holland and South Holland, and it's only a certain part of Holland, but yeah, anyway, it's easier to say. So yeah, I don't know, I thought that was an opportunity, and I just kind of took it, and I thought, I'll see what happens. So I was very much more spontaneous, I think. Sometimes I feel when you grow up you lose your spontaneity a bit, and I guess because I was 17, it was much more of okay, well, let's just see what happens.
Yeah.
No responsibility really, so you have more freedom to move around and do what you want to do. And I did it, and I just went, okay, let's just do it and see what happens. I can always go back.
Exactly, you can always go back.
So yeah, and I came to the UK, and that's kind of the beginning of the journey, really.
Wow. And before we continue on, I do want to kind of pull us back, but before I pull us back, what did your dad, like, what was his, did he just want you to win some stuff, or like, why did he do this?
Honestly, I have no idea why he did what he did.
Do you think he saw something in you?
Perhaps.
That maybe he wanted to.
Yeah, but I don't think
push?
he could even imagine that it would take me there, to the UK. For him, it was just a fun, let's get you involved in a little competition.
Yeah.
But yeah, he could never have imagined it would take me to go and move to the UK. I mean, my gran is English, so it's not like it's completely alien to me. I mean, I got asked, what a Dutch Christmas is like, and I wouldn't have a clue because my nan always had a British one. So I only ever had British Christmases. I haven't a clue what a Dutch one's like. Yeah, really. But yeah, it's and we have Sinterklaas, which is like on the 5th of December. It's kind of like the guy comes from Spain, and it's just Anyway, it's like it's based on a childhood sort of I don't know, St. Peter's or something.
Oh, okay.
It was called, and St. Nicholas.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, so the Dutch do the 5th of December more than Christmas, really,
Oh,
in a
really?
way.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it's quite funny.
Huh.
Mm.
Who would have guessed?
Yeah.
I did not know that one.
Well, I think every sort of European,
has their own
all
sort
their
of
own,
thing.
Not just Europe,
Yeah.
anywhere in the world, have
Did
their own
you
little thing.
do like the German kind of Christmas as well, or were you
No.
strictly?
No, it was like my nan was kind of like, quite dominant, sort of when it came to the Christmas side of things. I'm aware of certain German traditions, but my mum is, she calls herself a citizen of the world. And she's very open and very, she speaks about 6 or 7 languages. It's crazy.
That's insane.
She's got that sort of natural ability to be able to speak languages. I can only speak English, barely, and Dutch and a little bit of German.
Okay.
But I mean, if you don't practice it a lot, you lose it. But it's handy to be able to speak another language, I guess. Although it's not many people in the UK speak Dutch.
No, but when you go back, I'm sure it's handy.
Yeah, no, it's handy.
Yeah.
Although saying that, now everybody just speaks English. Even if you were to try and do a little bit of Dutch, you can see them going, yeah, don't worry, we speak English, it's all good. So it's fine.
I know they want it to be like easy for you.
Yeah.
Where you're trying to be like, I know, I want to try, I want to
Yeah,
practice. Please speak
but
me.
It's quite a guttural language anyway.
Oh,
So
interesting.
it's right at the back, whereas English is right at the front. Yeah, it's like. So,
Really?
So where I'm from is really hard to say. It's Scheveningen.
Scheveningen.
Oh, you're not bad.
Yeah.
That's really quite good.
Wait, say it again.
Scheveningen. Yeah, see, that's what I mean. It's like, what do I do with my face, my tongue? Where does it go? Yeah, it's a funny language. But yeah, it's quite, it's a lot of it's in the back. Yeah.
Huh. Well, the more you know.
Yeah, there you go. Well, you need to practice then.
Scheveningen. Oh, Lord.
That's the best thing.
I think I nailed it, actually.
Yeah, I think you're just right.
I'm sorry, am I Dutch? You can pop
natural.
that back
Put it
on
back
the...
again on the wall. Bless her.
Yes.
The little girl.
The little you.
The little me. Yeah, who would have thought?
And what were you like in school?
Oh, wow. Again, I think most of my childhood has been really nice.
Yeah.
Especially when I was I guess up till about the age of about 10. Everything's quite innocent. Everything's quite nice. You're learning. I enjoyed being at school. I liked having friends. Then you got that transition period where you then go to the big school. And that's the bit where I moved from a school in Scheveningen where everything was kind of cute to like a sort of a school in The Hague, Den Haag, where you have a real mixture of people from all over the city. So you were thrown in effectively in a deep end with a load of different people and strangers. And I just remember in the beginning being a little bit bullied. Because I came from a relatively nice-ish area, even though we were, broke. But when you came from the Scheveningen side, you kind of were, you live in a nice sort of,
That's
place.
So
it's weird, yeah.
Especially considering the reality.
Yeah, exactly.
Of the situation.
Exactly.
Did you ever,
yeah,
kind of like be like, no, that's not.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, you could say that, but
people are.
I mean, kids can be really cruel to one another, and it's like it's everywhere. It's not just specific to where I'm from or where I live. I see it now. How kids can be so awful to each other, and it's. I guess you're just trying to establish yourself. You're learning about yourself. You can't quite figure out what you're doing or who you are, and you're jostling for like, sort of, where am I? What do I do? Where do I stand?
Yeah.
Can I say something to you that will offend you? How do you react to it? And it's like you're learning, and everybody's doing the same, and the hormones are flying everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just, you can kind of see it in people, and I mean, it happens to all the time, and even now it happens all the time when you're grown-ups and people trying to figure out who you are, what you're doing. But going back to kind of the childhood, it was I remember feeling really not very nice, and it was really hard to explain what was going on. But they were very nasty. And then the moment I kind of just stood up for myself and said something back, they backed down. But at the time, the fear of having to do that when you're young is quite
immense.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
And you can see how young people will feel, and what now I just look at people and go, how dare you say that, or what how do you think that's going to make someone feel when you do that?
Yeah.
When you're older, it's easier, but when you're in that age and you're still trying to figure out who you are, what you do, and if you're able to say something, that's quite hard.
Yeah.
But once that happened and I kind of established that I wasn't having it and I wasn't going to be bullied, they backed down.
Okay.
And then when I got older and understood a bit more about myself and knew the people that I like to be around, it all became much easier. But yeah, it's just it's a journey, isn't it?
Yeah.
Childhood journey. It was relatively nice, but there were ups and downs, I guess, like everybody else. But yeah, it's interesting because you learn a lot about yourself, and I guess that's what it's meant to do.
How did you get the courage to talk back to these bullies? And were you did you have friends at the time who were kind of supporting you, or was it?
No, actually, it was talking to my mum about it, really.
Yeah.
I spoke to my mum about everything. It probably helped that she was quite young, and she was very open, and she would talk about anything and everything.
Wow,
and
she sounds great.
Yeah. And it was just, I said what was going on at school, and she could feel I wasn't particularly happy, but I talked to my mum about everything.
Yeah.
And I was just really lucky that I had a very supportive mum. And in fact, a lot of my friends at school used to come home and they used to speak to my mum about issues that they had.
Yeah.
So yeah, she was a bit of an agony aunt to everybody, but it came very natural to her. And I was just talking to her about the situation, and I said, this is what's going on. And she wasn't like, you tell him this, you tell him that. It wasn't anything like that at all. She basically said, well, okay, there's a few things you can do here, but ultimately, she said, I have a feeling once you tell him that they will back down.
Yeah.
And you just have to say how you feel and just tell them that this is not okay.
Yeah.
And you think, really, that simple? Surely not.
Yeah.
But I did.
Yeah.
And I think they were so surprised, and that must. Obviously I don't know what they were thinking at the time, but I was just said it, and they backed down, and we almost were a little bit friendly, for a while. But it's kind of at a period of time where when you in Holland you have the sort of the first class is they call a brugklas, which is like where you establish what you're going to be doing, which direction you're going to be going in education.
That's wonderful.
So you've got like the
when does that happen? Like how old?
So you're at 11, 12.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh
so you're basically
gosh.
going into class and they kind of assess you.
Okay.
And also you then say what you would like to do. So you have like 3 directions you can go in.
Okay.
One takes 4 years, one takes 5 years, and one takes 6 years. The one that you do 6 years, one can then take you to university and beyond.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of like, what level are you at with regards to your education? So do you want to go more into, I don't know, being a doctor, a lawyer, or do you want to go more into the creative, or do you want to go more into whatever? But it's just a really interesting process. And the guys that kind of bullied me ended up going to the lower end of it.
Yeah.
And I went more into the middle. So you end up with different people in a
and
different
maybe more
class,
like-minded.
and more like-minded.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you? Because obviously you have 2 daughters and they were raised here.
Yeah.
Do you think? Because 11 and 12, to know what you want to do, that's pretty stressful. But on the flip side, being with the like-minded people could be positive. Do you think? Comparing the 2 school systems, what do you think is better? Or do you was this kind of diversion that you had a positive thing?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's a similar situation here. It's just called something differently.
Okay.
But I mean, it's a similar setup by the age of 11, 12, you move
That's
into different education.
wild.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, the girls, both of them are very much more creative than they are, they're never into maths or anything like that.
Yeah.
You can kind of tell, but you go through a period, don't you? You need to assess what it is that you like, because you don't know what it all means when you're so young.
No, you don't.
You was doing ballet, you tried, playing an instrument.
Yeah.
You have to figure out what interests you.
Yeah.
And, you don't necessarily know when you're really young.
I don't know
what on earth you want to do. Well, this is it. I mean, I'm still learning. To be honest, you never stop learning. And you never know what happens in life and where you're going to end up.
Mm-hmm.
And, you just have to be open to things and I think the biggest thing I find incredible in humans generally is their resilience. It's just, your adaptability. And to be honest, that's the way going through life like that is be open to things.
Yeah.
Is what will get you, how you're doing your podcast, for instance, and how we met. You were very chatty, very open, saying, I've got this idea, I want to do this, and I think it's, and I want to do that and that. And you just evolved, and you were open and talking to people. And I kind of like, wow, she's really like into it. And I you got me to say yes.
Yeah, I know.
And I was like, come on, this sounds great.
I feel like your friend really helped, though.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
He was, he's quite interesting. Yeah, he goes, come on, let's do it. And in fact, I'll put him forward next.
Yes, he better come on. He better come on. We're actually going to the cabaret again, so I'll let him know. And when you, at that age, at 11, 12, when you were doing these different paths, what was your dream? Did you have an idea? And what did people tell you should be doing?
Well, I was very lucky that my mum was not that sort of person and told me, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that, or you'd be better off being in this or doing that. She was very much like, do what you need to do and what makes you makes your heart sing. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was really interested in television. Okay. Always, but in Holland at the time, or the Netherlands, I keep saying that, we only had, I think it was about 2 channels. Really? That was it. Wow. So there wasn't much media industry there at the time.
Film and stuff? Or?
There was like, you had Rutger Hauer, which is, I suppose you say Rutger Hauer, who he literally was in Blade Runner.
Oh, okay.
So he was the original, with the sort of white hair. He was one of the Dutch actors that really thrived.
Excelled, yeah.
And then you had director Paul Verhoeven, who did Basic Instinct and RoboCop and stuff like that. Yeah. So those at the time were the 2 kind of prolific Dutch people making it in Hollywood. But ultimately there was no real media industry in the Netherlands at the time. And over the years, it did grow. And in fact, you had the Endemol, Sean de Mol, and I've forgotten the other guy's name, but they set up this production company, and they ended up creating things like Big Brother. Oh, wow. And so a lot of the formats come from the Netherlands nowadays. Traitors is a Dutch format.
Interesting.
For some weird reason, such a tiny little country has come up with all these amazing kind of TV shows now. But I'm talking, in the 80s when there wasn't really anything there. So I think coming to the UK gave me the opportunity to try and explore that. I was lucky that my boyfriend at the time was a cameraman. Oh, nice. And so I did some running work there for free, so I wasn't paid. And
this was in the Netherlands?
No, this was in the UK.
So was this the guy that
the cameraman.
Yeah. Lovely.
So I did some work there for no pay. Okay. But it gave me experience and exposure. And it was really interesting. I did everything, from making teas and coffees to running errands to, and then I ended up like helping on set, making it's just random stuff that you get asked to help, and that kind of opened my eyes to what is available within that space. And I was really interested, but obviously I needed to, turn it around to make some money, because I couldn't keep doing it for free. So yeah, that's kind of where it all started, and where the journey into that world started. And I was lucky to be able to get a sort of an in, but in those days it was very unionized. So you couldn't get a job in TV if you didn't have like an ACTT at the time, part of a union, and you couldn't be part of a union if you didn't have a job in TV. So it's kind of like, how are you meant to get how are you meant to get into this?
So is that why you weren't paid?
No, that was just
just the way it was.
That's the way it was at the time. But eventually, it's a bit like, it's like a membership sort of thing. You had to be recommended.
Oh my gosh.
Which is a bit weird. And it was really hard to get into the industry at the time. But eventually it took some time, and I did become a part of the union, and that's when I could get a job in TV.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how did you eventually make it into the union?
Recommendation. So
it's all...
Again, so my boyfriend at the time, the cameraman, had another friend, and they recommended that I would be, because I was running on set.
Gotcha.
That I potentially could do that. So it's just a strange thing at the time. I mean, we are talking in the 80s here, so it's quite a long time ago. Yeah, hugely changed. Yeah.
So what was your first paid position then in the industry?
So there's a company called Production Partners. It was a really small production company in Wardour Street in London. At the time, there was no internet, and there was no, you couldn't find jobs just on LinkedIn. There was no LinkedIn. So I went to Capital Radio, which still exists. They had big media type big boards with all these media jobs in their reception.
Oh, wow.
And that's where people went. If you want to work in media, there was all these boards lined up with all these little cards with little phone numbers on there. If you're interested in working there, you just phone up. Yeah. Wow. I know, it's mad, isn't it?
That's
you now go, oh my God, this is just, it's so old-fashioned.
In some ways, though, that's better, because then you can make that initial impression on the phone.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like, if your resume doesn't stand out, which mine does not, it just gets tossed aside. So and they never actually get to know who you are.
Yeah. No, it's only when you talk about it, how it used to be, that you're going, wow, that is quite weird.
Yeah.
And quite different.
Yeah.
But equally, it has had its charm in a way, because you're right, you can make an impact, and you don't necessarily get turned down when you do a phone call,
Yeah.
It's kind of like, okay, well, come in and let's chat. So I went, and also you have no mobile. So
true.
You make an appointment, and that's it. You can't just go, okay, let me just change it.
True.
You just had to turn up at the right time,
and
talk to people and impress them. And yes, of course, when you're there, you could give them your resume or your CV. And, or you can send it to them through the post.
Oh, my God.
Do you know what I mean? It's
it's a different world.
It's so strange.
Yeah.
I mean, even I'm like, what the hell? But, that's kind of how it went. And so I went to see them and had a chat. And I literally started the following Monday.
Wow.
And I got a paid job. And I did everything from running errands to teas and coffees and organising shoots and stuff like that, and I ended up even doing my boss's makeup.
Oh wow!
I know,
that's
randomly.
Quite niche.
Yeah.
Why? How did that come about?
That's really odd. Yeah, I've done a course.
Okay.
Before I came to the UK, I was kind of into that, makeup and stuff.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd do a course in TV makeup and for models and what have you. So. And they found out that I did that. And she said, oh, well, you can do my makeup. And I went, okay.
Okay.
So I did it once.
Yeah.
And she said, I love it. So every morning I ended up pretty much coming into work.
Every morning?
Yeah. Doing her makeup.
Wow.
Very, very bizarre. But I mean, you know.
Are you now doing the same? Do you have someone coming and doing your makeup every morning?
Can you imagine? I'll be like, no. I mean, come on.
It's a Sunday. It's a Sunday.
This. Yeah. So no, no, I don't. Yeah, I don't have anybody doing my makeup. I wish. No, it was good though, because it was just I learned everything.
Yeah.
Like, lots of different stuff was going on all the time, and it was just really, really just nice to learn. It was a very, very small company, so it was, you know, I've learned a lot, and it was good. It was a good start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And was this a production company?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what exactly is a production company, like, versus?
So they're the ones. I mean, I'm going to talk about the company that I work for. It was very, very small. They did more sort of commercial type things.
Okay.
So the smaller type shoots. So they go out. It's kind of their idea. They get a client or whoever that may be. It could be from a brand. It could be someone that wants them to do a little film. And I ended up just organising the shoot, where people should meet. You get the call sheets of who should be doing what. And organise payment. And so they do all the filming, I guess. And then after that, you go into the post-production sort of process. But at the time, I mean, the lady and the man I worked for, they were the producers and they created, you know, the finished product. I never went into an edit. I just organised all the bits up front.
Gotcha.
At the time. And then they went on to create all the kind of edits and stuff afterwards. But I was there for about, just a year and a bit. Yeah. Learning and sort of seeing how things kind of went. But it was a really, really small company.
Do you think that's beneficial? Because you're able to kind of touch all these different areas? Yeah. And maybe perhaps relied on more because there's only so many people?
I think it's when you're building a career, I think it's good to do both.
Okay.
I think it's good to be part of a really small company to learn a lot, exactly what you just mentioned. And then also for a big company to see how that works and the hierarchy and how people interact within a bigger environment. Obviously the competition's bigger, but it's also interesting to see what levels and what people do. And, you know, you're just watching and monitoring and figuring out what it is that you like to do, because it's not that obvious what careers are available within television or media in general. I mean, everybody knows, you know, I want to be an editor, I want to be a director, I want to be an actor and actress, but there are thousands of jobs in between that support these productions in the commercial world, which, you know, and then you've got the scripted world, unscripted. There's so much available that no one really talks about. I mean, now obviously on the internet you can look things up. You can see that there are many different jobs within the media industry, but it's not particularly obvious when you're at school, or, you know, I mean, some people still think that, you know, when something gets shot, as in filmed, it goes straight onto the telly. So you're like, there's a massive process that happens in between and before it even goes anywhere near transmission. But not a lot of people know about that. So it's kind of really interesting to see what is available within. So each job that you do, you literally just observe, watch, see, talk to people, make connections. I think the most important thing within any career, within whatever you want to do, is networking.
Yeah,
so,
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
It's who you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Totally. And with all these new connections that you make, other things happen. So I think, when my biggest tip ever is always like, network amongst your peers, amongst anybody, doesn't matter who, just connect, because people that don't necessarily have started their career yet are also good, because again, they're on a journey. You know, we don't all start from nothing to I'm now, I don't know, managing director, CEO.
It's the whole point of the podcast.
There you go.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think it's just so interesting what you say about, we're obviously familiar with directors, producers, actors, but there's literally thousands of careers out there in the media industry. And I think that's almost why, like, obviously post-secondary education is important.
Yeah.
I went to university and stuff, but it gives you, I just don't feel like it gives you the reality of life.
Yeah. So weirdly enough, I mean, I'm maybe jumping ahead, but that's exactly what I saw when we set up Envy Post-Production, which is the company that I work with at the moment. I saw that and I started something called the Envy Academy, which is basically educating people about what we do. And equally, it's really hard to explain because I was looking at this and it's something that almost hit me.
Yeah.
I was watching it going, is no one actually talking about how you get from your education to the actual job?
Yeah.
There's such a huge gap. Who's talking about this bit here in the middle?
And the expectation as well. Like what you expect this career to look like versus what they're telling you in university. And completely different.
Yeah.
Like it's honestly mind-blowing that this isn't more normal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I always think that sort of the industry liaison person at unis are almost the most important people, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
Because they will transition you between, after your education into a job, but they are the least supported as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of students don't fully grasp how important these people are. But I saw this gap and I thought, right, okay, how can I help? How can I do this? How can I sort this out? Luckily enough, when we set up the company and we needed runners, I was kind of thinking, well, I can't keep stealing people from other places because that's just going to be mad.
Yeah.
So I was lucky that I met this amazing sort of lecturer at a university in the north of the UK. He was so enthusiastic and he basically said, look, why don't you come to the university and talk about what it is that you do as a company and as people and how you recruit and what you do. And then I will then point you in the right direction for the people that are really interested in a career within your sort of post-production. And I went, okay, that sounds great. So it was kind of a casual arrangement.
Okay.
And that kind of just grew arms and legs because people were like really interested in, so what is it you do and how do you get to that and what happens and what's the journey and what do I need to do? And so we ended up sort of talking about that journey, but also helping with CVs.
Oh, awesome.
Making sure not to make the rookie mistakes of sending an email with a different name with your competitors on it, sending it to everybody involved. It's no, tailor it to who the company you want to work for, because you don't want to be one of many. I mean, they're all small little things, but ultimately recruiters are, do look out for that sort of stuff. So that journey was really interesting and it grew arms and legs. And we ended up having these amazing students coming in, doing, work experience, figuring out what they wanted to do. Yeah. And I was very open, just observe, look, see what you want to do. Some people were pretty adamant, like, I want to be an editor. Yeah. And then they got to Envy and they did a bit of work experience. And then they went, oh, gosh, I didn't realise you also did that and you did this and you do that. I'm really quite interested in that side of things. Yeah. So it is really, it is just being open and learning and figuring out what it is that you want to do. Yeah. I mean, there's so many things within post-production that people are not aware of and that need to be done. And it's interesting journey. And I was really sort of pleased that it kind of grew arms and legs, and then other lecturers and other universities were interested, and then other sort of media education sort of outlets also spoke to us, And it kind of grew and grew and grew and grew.
Yeah.
And I mean, now we do, you know, sort of hundreds of work experience placements every year within Envy. And it's now, you know, it's something that's gone really, really grown. And we've given I'd say about 1,500 people the opportunity to get in, work in television and grow. You know, we've had people leaving and following careers within production and come back as a client.
Wow.
We've had...
That's weird.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
No, it was great though.
No, I'm sure, but like,
yeah,
pinch me moment there.
Yeah, no, it's great. And then, yeah, you don't think about it really.
No,
because it's
no.
every day. You just go.
Yeah,
go.
you just keep going.
But no, it's good to see, and also like people leaving your company, go to others, competitors, and then come back.
Wow,
I've had that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Really, just very, very lucky.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, it's been a, you know, quite an interesting journey, and again, just be open to, because things evolve, things change, we grow as a business. We recently acquired a commercial post-production house called Absolute, and they've got a sister animation company called Blind Pig. So again, the offering to our clients is now vast.
It's very vast.
So, you know, within television, you've got so many other like genres as well. So we offer quite a lot.
Wow.
So that's why, you know, our workforce needs to be diverse and needs to be able to, you know, have all these different talents, I guess. So you can kind of try and get the best of the best, so that you can pass that on to clients and people really want to come back to you. And that's kind of the idea. Yeah.
Well, that is very inspiring, and I think it's so, because you also established this 2008, the Academy, correct? Or 2000, around
so
that time.
So the business started 2006.
Okay.
And I kind of just went, well, if we are growing, it's just, you know, you can't keep stealing away from other places, because it's just, I thought we need to start, we need to grow, we need to, you know, create our own kind of, you know, workforce.
And it makes so much sense. Like if you want, because I personally think that in terms of like finding careers and such things, the resume really doesn't matter. Like I feel like it's the person. And if you can get the person at the right moment and allow them to grow in the position, that's how you're going to succeed. Personally, that's what I think. Because I think the majority of people have so many talents and so many strengths that can't be put on a piece of paper.
It is hard. And I mean, obviously having my two daughters, and you can see when they are applying for jobs, you kind of going, okay, you know, now, I mean, you've got AI who's shifting through things, you know. So you don't even have a human involved anymore.
Oh, that's so true.
Which is really, really quite scary. But I can see, you know, you have to be so special to stand out. And it is really hard, because when we've advertised for a role and you have like 250 applications, you have to almost skim certain things. You can't go through each and every one. And now with the you know, jobs on LinkedIn and, if you know, Indeed and all these type of places, it's almost an automated process. And it's kind of like it's taken the human element out of it, so it's quite hard. And you get applications from people that don't necessarily even want to be in your field, but just see it as a job to get. So you then have to sift. So you then have to sift through that too.
Oh my gosh.
So it's quite difficult as an employer to go through all that, because you could miss a real gem, but you just don't know. And we do give a lot of CV type of advice to people on how to, you know, not necessarily stand out, but just, you know, to show what you're capable of, and what your passion is. And, you know, don't write like an essay when you try and send a letter in. I haven't got time to read, 2 A4 pieces of paper about what you
No.
did at uni, and
Yeah.
that's really unfortunate.
Yeah.
But it sounds really brutal, but that's kind of what it is. So I always say, make it short, make it precise, make it count. Make it sort of say a bit about you, say you're passionate about what you want to do it for, why the company, why
That's
would
it.
you?
Yeah. Just keep it
small.
Yeah.
And sometimes the odd different one stands out. For instance, I had a great one, which was somebody just sent me a poem, and it all just rhymed, and it was just
About them?
well, yes, they
Yeah.
introduced themselves.
Okay.
Then they said why they wanted to work at MV,
Yeah.
and why I should see them.
Wow.
And it was a poem, and everything rhymed, and it was
Yeah.
just so different.
Yeah.
I hadn't ever seen anything like that. And I said to my colleague, I said, we need to see this guy. I just
Yeah.
want to see what,
Like who wrote this poem?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh my
And
gosh.
he actually said that his mum helped him do it,
Stop.
and it was so cute. But he still works at Envy.
Wow. Look at that.
Yeah.
You got to kind of do the strange,
Yeah.
bizarre things to stand out.
Yeah.
Before we continue with Envy, because as listeners, Natascha obviously founded Envy, if we hadn't made that clear yet. But before we continue on that journey and how you did that, I think a lot of what you've said is all about, like, you need the experience and you need to have the connections before you can make these big moves.
Yeah.
So going back to when you were working at the smaller company, where was kind of the next step there? At the time, were you a runner at that smaller company?
Yeah,
as well?
I kind of, I suppose the official job, I think, was like production assistant, I think, or something like that. But it basically was pretty much anything and everything that needed to be done. After that, it was kind of like, okay, well, I've done the small company. I felt like I needed to kind of, do something slightly bigger. And I ended up working for a company called Music Box, which is kind of the predecessor, pre-runner of MTV at the time. And I ended up working in the tape library. It sounds really weird, but at the time, everything obviously that was being filmed was being filmed onto tape.
That's so true.
And somebody obviously had to sort that sort of stuff out. So because it was a music company, we ended up doing all these interviews with, people like Bros and kind of David Bowie and sort of, Steve Winwood and, all the bands of the 80s, basically. Very much in those days, the artists themselves used to turn up and they used to just, they did their own kind of PR and they did their own interviews and stuff like that. Whereas now it's very organised, if you are in a band, or it's very like, you have your PR people and you have those people. But in those days, the artists themselves were like pretty much doing what what they wanted to do. And it was great. I mean, literally, you walked in and there was all these like sort of pop stars like wandering around chatting and what have you. So yeah. I mean, it's like now you wouldn't be able to get anywhere near like an artist, but then it was far more like open and far more easier, to talk to people. I mean, obviously, some of them still had like,
the ego.
but it was fun. It was really, really nice.
Yeah.
And it was a good job, and I stayed there for quite a long time. Met a lot of people, and did what what we talked about, the networking side.
Yeah.
I'm still friends with people that I've worked with from that company.
Wow.
And you kind of, it then becomes almost like a recommendation, because people used to say things like, oh, do you know someone who can do this and this and this? But because you didn't have the internet as such, you had, I know a friend who knows a friend who's done that work before.
Yeah.
That was almost easier then.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have to put your ad in a newspaper.
Is that what people would do?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
The ad was in a newspaper. There is like a whole section of the Evening Standard that was literally just job ads.
Wow.
And you literally circled them, what you're interested in, and there was a phone number underneath, and you just had to call.
That's crazy.
That's it.
Yeah,
so that's why
it was.
That's why I think a lot of it is who you know.
Yeah.
I think stems a little bit from that era, because ultimately, it is so much easier if you don't have to write in. do the selection process, do all of that. But obviously it's not entirely fair, because what ended up happening is you had all the same people working.
I see.
So there's no diversity as such. So in that sense, that wasn't great. But at the time, it was like almost like I wouldn't say necessity, but it's the way that things worked, because you didn't have the internet, or there was no job section as such in that sense. So it was easier to get someone in that you knew. So it's not ideal, but that's how it happened.
But I think it also, because if you do have people that are through word of mouth, it also shows that the person that you're getting has some sort of proactive approach to it. So I guess regardless of what we talk about, there'll always be positive and negatives to it. But I think, I don't know, I have this like weird concept. So I'm a teacher in like another area of life, and when I got my first job, I literally walked into the school and it was given to me. So now I have this strange like thing where I'm like, I don't need to interview for anything. I'm just gonna walk in and they're gonna give me a job. And
Wow.
it's not the case, but like it has happened to me before where it's just here. And you're almost like, fake it till you make it, to be quite honest with you. Like you kind of have to just do it. And
get thrown in at the deep end.
Part of me likes that. You know,
but that's how you learn.
How
you grow. You know, it is. I mean, there are moments I still turn up to events. And I think, oh God, you know, there's like the I don't know, the head of Amazon Studios. There's like the commissioning editor of the BBC, and you're sitting there going, oh my God, these people are serious.
And I'm like,
you know, and I'm like nothing like that. And then they start talking to you and they're going, oh my God, you know, I thought of this and I was really scared when I had to talk. And you're like, what? You? Seriously?
Everyone's
never
all the
thought
same.
that. So you have to kind of going, actually, everyone has something at some point that you go, oh, I'm a bit uncomfortable. But then, you know, you just step into it and then learn and grow and see where it takes you. Fingers crossed.
Exactly.
Both of us said that exactly at the same time. That's hilarious.
And I'm wondering about, because you became a creative director, which is quite an advanced position. So was it just like kind of like a slow trek up to that point? And how many years did it take? And like I want the details of that.
Oh God, well, from the early days of being a runner right through to being a production assistant and a VT librarian, I kind of just grew in each job. There was like a, you know, the path wasn't set out. It was really a case of, I mean, how do you go from becoming a tape librarian to being a production assistant? It doesn't make any sense. But actually, the discipline of the tape library is as such that you have precious material which is filmed, and it costs a lot of money, because obviously a shoot, you have the cameraman, the sound person, the PA, the person, the director, the talent. It costs a lot of money, and it all goes onto a tape at the time, which is, it's precious. So if you are not, if you don't take it seriously, then you know you have to have a discipline as such. And it, for me, I learned that is like a discipline. You have to make sure it's labeled correctly. You have to make sure that the right material is there at the right place. I mean, I worked at Channel 4 in the tape library, and you know, you were the one getting the tapes ready for transmission.
I see.
So I would make sure that all the programs were lined up at the time on a shelf.
And then to
on
go
an
out.
actual tape to go out on air.
Interesting.
So there is a, you know, there's a seriousness about it, because you have to get it right. So the discipline of learning, even though I you know, being a tape librarian is not, you know, what I wanted to be, but it taught me a lot, which is that, you know, it is precious material. You have to treat it with respect. You have to know and label it correctly and make sure everything's right on it. You know, it's like you with the recording. You know, is the audio right? Is it being filmed? You know, it is really like things you wouldn't think about.
Yeah.
But it is ever so important. So you learn the discipline of the precious material that you create. And then kind of after that, I, again, through colleagues and met someone, he was given an opportunity to run a movie channel. Okay. And he wanted a production assistant. And he basically said, look, he said, I know you're working at Channel 4, it's a big company, you get all the benefits, but I really would like you to come with me and be a production assistant. Yeah. So it was a bit of a gamble, and I had to take a pay cut. But it's a slightly different career path. Yeah. So I was going, okay, well, is it worth it? At the time, I didn't have massive responsibility. So although I was going to lose money, I thought it's worth it to change my career path and doing something different. And it kind of paid off. But you just don't know at the time. You just go with your gut. I mean, I had opportunities where I could have worked for Capital Radio, which is far more audio based, or working in TV. So at that point, I could have maybe would have had a career in radio, or not at all. I don't know. Yeah. But you make these decisions at the time, not knowing where it's going to take you. But this is life altogether, isn't it? Yeah. You sometimes go, wow, am I doing this? Oh my God, where's this going to take me?
Well, it's that being open again.
Yeah.
It's going back to just kind of almost tumbling forward.
Yeah. It's kind of, it's interesting because people think, oh, how did you get where you get? Yeah. It's never just a straight road. It's just like all over the place. It could be, but it's mainly the people that you find along the way that, like-minded people, and you're going, well, I like working with you. We have, fun. It could take you somewhere. It might not. And if it doesn't, then try something different. Yeah. But, when people say, oh, young people now, they go, I want to be what you're doing. I said, okay, but I didn't start like this. I am much older than you, for starters. And, you need to just be a runner for a while, because actually in the TV industry or the film industry or the media industry, being a runner is like, actually, it's probably the best job in the world, because you can observe and see, talk to people, anybody, and you don't have the responsibility that you will have if you are in a point. Yeah, so you can
make mistakes,
of course. Yeah. And sometimes if you make a really bad mistake, you can still get fired.
Oh God! Don't make really bad mistakes. But the little ones.
Yeah.
We can grow
but
from.
No. But I always say to the runners, I said, don't see this as just making teas and coffees, because it's not. That's part of it. But you are literally learning, observing. Yeah. You're able to speak to your colleagues that are in different roles. You're able to speak to clients that are around and have different experiences. You're learning all the time, and you can see what it is that you potentially might want to do. And and also they'll make friends. Yes. And they will keep those friends pretty much forever in their career, and you'll see them again and again and again. Wow. And that particular runner might go into another career. Yeah. Knows about their friend. Yeah. Will recommend. And it kind of evolves. It
comes full circle.
Yeah. So no, it's a I always say this, weirdly enough, when you're older and you're in a senior position, you're going to look back on this particular moment in this particular role and go, I had a good time. That was a good time.
That was a good time.
Yeah. Even though, the money is rubbish, but you need to start somewhere. And this is, I think it's a great, I've been a runner, and I thought it was, great opportunity. At the time, obviously, you're like, oh, it's not much pay, but, it's great. Now I think back and I'm like, God, I had the best time, really, to be honest. Not much responsibility, but, it was great. It was really, really good, yeah.
And I'm curious, when so we'll speak briefly of your first senior position, then we'll get into envy and how that all came about. But I'm curious how you felt in your first senior position. Like, was it complete, what am I doing here? Or did you feel...
No, you fake it till you make it. Yeah. But I think that's... You do that each time, I think, you take a step in any direction and you're not entirely sure.
Yeah.
And you're doing it, and then all of a sudden you're going, actually, I'm not that bad at it. That's good. But obviously you keep that inside your head.
Yes,
and
of
then and also it's, you know, whoever gives you the opportunity as well, because every single person that will interview you along the way has been in your position.
Interesting. That's such a good... Yeah.
So, you know, no one's like goes from birth to CEO in nanoseconds.
Yeah.
You know, you all have a path learning. So the person that will interview you has been in your position, and some people remember that, but some people don't, because there are, you know, like in any industry, there's lots of egos as well. So, but you navigate through that. It's normal life, isn't it? You have it in careers, in your day to day. So, you know, it's kind of how you deal with it. But the industry now is far more open. It's far more diverse. It's far more, you know, how it really should be. And, you know, I mean, being a female in the 80s, you know, I worked for several companies where I was kind of one of you know, not many women were around. And, you know, it was quite crude. And at the time, I just went with it, and, you know, I was just not affected by it. But if you tell people now what I had to deal with, they'd be like, what? That's horrible. That's terrible. But at the time, it was just, you know, surviving. And it wasn't even that bad, depending on how you reacted. Doesn't make it right. But we are talking, you know, a long time ago. So, you know, 35 years ago, you could say certain things and they were fine. If you say them now, oh my God.
You're fired.
So it's just a different world with different people. And, you know, you look at, like, for instance, your grandparents and what they thought was okay to say, and you're like, oh my God, no, you can't say that anymore. Please don't do that.
Please. Did you ever, like, because you were one of the only women in the industry at the time, did you ever feel like you didn't belong? Did it ever like stop you from pursuing specific things, or?
It's weird, and I kind of feel like I've got almost my nationality to thank for it, because nothing the men said to me affected me. I thought, well, it says more about you than it does me, really, to be fair. So when they were crude or trying to say something really rude, I'm not sure if I can say what they said on this podcast. So they try to be like, catch you out and say, when's the last time you had a good shag? Then, you know, it's all the typical
things.
All that. And you literally just I kind of just turned around and went, I had to watch them at the time, I went, it was about an hour and a half ago, actually.
I love that.
And then
and you see, they don't expect that.
Don't expect that.
No, and they're like, oh wait, so you can play this game too. You're
and it stopped. So they were like, oh, because if I would have gone a bit hysterical or would have started crying or would have done whatever, they would have gone, oh, brilliant, we got that. So I'm not, you know, I don't know, I just said it how it was at the time, and they left me alone. I'm not saying it's right. They should never have said all the things that they said. And nowadays, you'd get up for you know, harassment. But in those days, there wasn't. You know, I think there was about 2 or 3 people in HR in a huge company,
and they were just kind of.
And it was just like, you know, whatever, just get on with it. But yeah, it was then. You know, in those days, it was very very different, very different.
And you had to do what you had to do as well. And, you know, I think that response, it just cuts it right off. And then you can focus on the work.
But
it's
that's
But so many people don't have that
Yeah.
confidence.
Yeah.
So it seems like you always had a lot of confidence. Do you think you did? Or do you think it's going back to that fake it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, when you're in a situation and you don't know what to do, your gut will help you a lot. But,
Yeah.
you know, you don't have to be witty or smart or sharp or whatever you call it to come up with something like that. But I just, again, observed, watched people's behavior, how they do things, who does what, who's the leader of the pack, who controls things. You watch and learn. I mean, I go into restaurants or bars or somewhere and I sit there and I can pretty much figure out who's doing what. Is it happening here tonight? You know, are people looking at their menus and trying to find a waiter with their eyes? And you kind of know how it's all going to, you know, sort of play out by just observing without people saying a word.
Yeah.
You kind of can feel what's going on after a little while. And I guess in a work situation, I found it quite helpful to do the same, to just sit, observe, watch, figure out what's going on. And when you then become in a more senior position, you kind of it helps because you understand behavior and how you get the best out of people when you encourage them to do what they do best.
Yeah.
And if you don't say to someone, "Oh my God, that's great, well done," then, you know, people will just go, "Oh, well, I'm not
Like, why bother?
appreciated. Why bother?"
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a two-way street. If you want
Yeah.
to get the best out of, you know, your colleague, you know, it's an open conversation, and you know, you sort of teach them by, maybe if you do it this way, you can create that, and they'll go, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'll give that a go next time." Open conversation, learning, observing, all these things are super important.
Yeah, I feel like we often forget the power of observation. Would you say you're an introvert or an extrovert? Or a little bit of both?
I think, yeah, a little bit of both.
A little bit of both? Because
Yeah.
I feel like so many people, myself included, go into situations and it's just like, phew, let's just get going. But taking the moment to observe, and I'm trying to practice it more myself, and especially like in classroom environments, and you know, you don't always have to talk to learn things. And I think I'm very much realizing that more, especially when I'm interviewing people. Like, I don't have to give my 2 cents, because often I can observe someone and how they're, you know, displaying themselves, and I can kind of nudge in the right direction, but I also don't need to go overboard and say all the things in the world.
Yeah.
So that's so interesting. I feel like so many people don't do that.
No, I mean, to be fair, when I was younger, I used to jump in as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, you know, there's a lot, you change. I mean, as a
Yeah.
human, like when your thought process as a child and as a teenager and in your 20s and 30s is very, very different to when you are in your 40s, 50s. So, and again, I think that evolves constantly. You are, literally changing.
Yeah.
So yeah, the thought process is going to be different, and you know, you're still learning. I mean, at my age, I'm, you know, still learning, and I'm trying to observe more, because sometimes that tells you a lot more than if you're trying to jump in with
Your opinions, your experience.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's it's an interesting journey.
Yeah. So tell me, how did Envy start? How did you, because I think when people, especially Envy, which is a huge post-production company, you've got 6 buildings in London, you work with these amazing shows, because as you said, like, success is a journey, and that's the whole thing about this podcast. But as an outsider, you look at that and it's just like, how like, I can't even wrap my brain around how that even possible, like, just all these giant companies. They all started from a tiny little idea. So what was the tiny idea?
Well, I mean, it's weird you say giant company. I don't necessarily see it as a giant company at all. But the idea, I basically been in production, and I met my husband at a company called Blue. I was a client there, and he was in more of a tech background, and I was more the production kind of background. He worked at Blue and kind of fell out a little bit with the management there and left, and it was kind of like a oh my god moment. You know, what's next? What are we going to do? You know, I said we had 2 little girls at the time, and I said to him, I said, I don't think you should be a cab driver because you're probably not going to tell people off. And anyway, we were just chatting about stuff. And I said, look, you're very ambitious. You want to do things your way.
Yeah.
I think you should set up your own company. Because at the time I was still working.
Okay.
And we were talked about it. And then I said, I think you ought to set up for yourself. And I'll help you, basically.
Yeah.
So from a creative perspective and a production perspective, I could help him. I thought of the name. I'd done the branding.
Where did the name come from?
It's weird because his previous company was called Blue.
Yeah.
And I thought I quite liked it because it was short.
Yeah,
it was sharp. And I didn't want it to be like going on and on and on and on.
Seasoned professional.
Yeah. no, that's good. But I just thought something catchy. 4 letters would be great.
Yeah.
And I literally thought of every 4-letter word that I could think of.
Yeah.
And I had all sorts of different weird names, but I don't know. I was standing on the platform waiting for a train.
Yeah.
And it just came to me, and I said envy. And I remember him turning around going, what? I said, envy. He went, what? No, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
He said, isn't that like, because it's one of the sins.
Yeah.
He said, isn't that a bit of a negative, it could be perceived to
that
be
way.
negative. I said, well, not when you're inside of it.
Oh.
So he kind of went, right, okay. So I worked with a designer because I wanted to create a logo.
Yeah.
And I worked together with someone, and first of all, we looked a little bit more like a perfume ad because it's quite easy.
Fair enough, yeah.
And then I worked with someone, and then we kind of talked about perhaps splitting it.
Oh, okay.
So, and then it became like a little block. So you had the EN and the VY.
Yeah.
And then I was saying, I wouldn't mind it being, sort of Apple-like. And at the time, it was just like, everybody wants Apple. And I mean, Apple was then quite cool, but it wasn't as cool as it is kind of almost now.
Yeah.
And it was quite simplistic in those days, and it really was just an Apple.
Yeah.
So the backless E came out of those ideas, speaking to the designers.
Yeah.
So I thought eventually just the 3 backless would speak for itself.
Yeah.
So now we have that on like runner t-shirts and bags and stuff like that. So the backless E, and everybody kind of knows it and associates it now with our company. So
that's wild.
It's kind of so there's a whole process, but anyway, going back to that, I then thought, well, I'll stay in production and I'll let Dave do his thing.
And would he do the company himself and you would kind of support and be in production, or were you gonna bring the production in?
I wasn't gonna be involved as such in working with him, because I thought, why would I want to work with my husband? It's just like crazy. But weirdly enough, at the time, because it started to get more sort of a bigger idea, and it became more of a serious idea, and then it was his idea to get shareholders involved, so people that will work at the company will invest into it.
I see. Yeah.
And then we had some money to go to the bank to be, considered serious. And that went really well. We had quite a lot of people that were interested in kind of investing. And then we kind of created, and I was going, well, off you go. Great, fantastic. And then we talked about it, and he said, but you set up the brand, you created how it should be, how it should look. And I had really, big ideas on how we should evolve certain parts of the business. He was more, business minded and did more of the tech aspect of it. And I was looking into other sides and, and how to create the brand and how to make things like, I was interested in the academy type stuff already, teaching, learning, how do you get into the industry? But at the time, obviously, that doesn't make money.
Yeah.
So he would say things like, oh, can't believe what your ideas are because it's not making any money. I said, no, but eventually it's going to be really important.
Yeah. Just you watch.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I guess the whole making money aspect of it, because obviously
to
create and build a company, you need money.
Yeah.
So how did the first, and was it always post-production specifically?
Yeah. So I guess at the time, and we started the business in 2006, there hadn't been any movement within the post-production world at all. So it was still the old-fashioned kind of companies that were going.
Gotcha.
And I said to Dave, I seriously think there's a gap in the market to look different, to be different, because it used to be very male-orientated. It used to be very grey, black, it was not very friendly atmosphere. The edit suites were very sort of stark, and it was just, a certain thing.
Yeah.
So I wanted it to be more homely, make it more friendly. It's a completely different vibe when you walk in somewhere. And it's weird because in hindsight, I've had conversations with producers and directors, and a lot of them starting out in the beginning and being sort of young, feeling intimidated when they go into certain edit houses. And they said when Envy started, it felt so comfortable walking in that it made you feel like you're okay.
And you belong there.
Yeah. And I went, oh, wow, I'd never...
Was that your intention?
Well, no.
Yeah.
But clearly,
there was some subconscious thing.
Yeah.
That you wanted it to.
I wanted it to be comfortable. I wanted it to be cozy. I wanted it to be, homely and not so stark. And so that was a whole sort of thought process. And I've even got documents about sustainability, in 2006 or 7.
Well, you're ahead of the game.
I mean, I've still got it, and it makes me laugh to this day because, again, you get, well, does it make money? You're like, well, no, but it's going to be really important.
Yeah, it's going to be very important.
It's going to be really important. But we had to make money to survive, like any business. You know, I mean, money is not a dirty word.
No.
You make money to create.
Yeah.
So you create opportunities, you create jobs, you create a business, it's important to have that. We were lucky, we had some really good people coming on board really early on who had clients and were willing to gamble
to take a chance
on us.
Wow.
And it worked because, we did do a good job for them. And I wouldn't say the rest is history, but we were lucky and we grew. So people that came in the beginning then ended up working for others. They brought them to us.
Wow.
And it kind of grown organically, I guess, in that sense. And then people, set up their own production companies. And if you provide a really good service and do what you do best, all you can hope for is that they come back and use it again. So that's kind of what happened, really.
Wow. And how far in until you were making money, until it was actually profitable?
So that was quite early on. We had to, because you have to pay people.
Very true. Very
that
true.
Little awkward thing.
Yeah, that it's not volunteer.
Yeah. So it's within a few months.
Wow.
We made money. We, myself and Dave and another guy called Dave, worked for no money for quite a while.
Yeah, that's the way it always goes.
Yeah. And then when we hired people, so our first engineer, we had to pay. And that's hard because when you have no money, it's a difficult situation, but we obviously had the money that was invested by the investors. We'd gone to the bank knew of our business plan, knew what was going on, were behind it, so they give you obviously a bit of leeway. Then they can see the clients that have booked in, so they know how much you're going to be bringing in, so they'll they give you a bit of grace in that sense. So within 3 or 4 months we were going, hang on, this is actually going okay.
Wow.
Brilliant. So, it's a strange market as such, because you don't necessarily sign contracts.
Okay.
It sounds an odd thing to do. It's probably the only place or the only sort of industry where a client will come up to you, say they'll work with you, and then they can still change their mind going to someone else.
That's good.
Yeah, it's quite unusual, but it's a lot of trust, and if you do produce huge shows, you have to deliver.
Yeah.
I mean, you're doing what you're doing, and you need to know that this is recorded and it's filmed, and similar process but bigger when it comes to a TV show.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same principle on just a different level. And if you need to be trusted to be delivering, and that's kind of what we had. So people started to trust us to deliver to the bigger companies, like the Netflixes and the Disneys, and Channel 4, BBC, you name it, ITV. We do shows for everybody across the world, Nat Geo, Discovery. So the trust needs to be built, and you need to be able to deliver, because if you don't, then you're dead in the water anyway.
And the trust takes time. Like, you've been at this for 20 years. So it's not... I think that's something that people often forget is, like, this did not happen overnight.
No, I mean, you provide talent. So, we provide to make shows look amazing. So when things get filmed, depending on the day you film things, it could be very sunny, it could be very cloudy. And then... when you do filming on different days and you then edit it all together, it all looks a bit strange. But then when you put it through a grade, where you make the audio amazing, all of a sudden it just goes from something relatively average to something unbelievable. It's a bit like sometimes trying to explain, like saying, okay, you're going into a hairdresser and makeup and you come out looking like $1 million. It's the same thing, the same process with a TV program. You start it goes in looking relatively, average, as in look wise, and then it comes out looking like, wow, this is amazing.
But as viewers, I feel like we forget that.
Totally.
I spoke to a film composer back in December, and it's kind of the same with music almost. If it's not there, you really notice it. But if it's there, it's not like it's your immediate attention. It doesn't get drawn to that, but it's so crucial to making the whole piece come together. It's
the same really in post-production. It's kind of like sometimes the forgotten thing at the end, but it's the one that makes it look like and makes it sound amazing. So I mean it's a proper craft. And that these people do, everybody from dubbing mixers to editors to graders. I mean, it is an absolute art, and make it look amazing. So that's we're lucky to have lovely, talented people working at Envy that make it work for our clients, I guess.
And when you started Envy, you seemed very apprehensive to work with your husband. How did it end up going?
Well, I think I mentioned we had 2 little girls at the time, and I was thinking, because he said maybe you ought to come and work at Envy because you had the vision, you got the idea of how things should look, do the website and social media and various other things that come with that. We had to put a structure in place for HR. All the sort of peripheral things that a lot of people don't necessarily want to deal with. I was able to to do with help. And so he said, I think you ought to come perhaps and work. And I went, I'm not sure that's a good idea.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I then thought, well, thinking like a mum, I
Yeah.
went, well, I've got 2 little girls. If something happens to them, at least I'll have a sympathetic boss, I guess.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Hopefully. So yeah, that did sort of work out quite well in that sense. So I mean, luckily enough, nothing major happened. But and then you kind of grow into the role, and you as a person, as well as the business, as well as the role, just it grows and things happen. So it's never the same. Every day is different. So you have people's lives are different. So from an HR perspective, anything could happen. Then you've got your clients come in, and sometimes you get we do a lot of voiceover work, and we've had everybody in there from David Beckham to Idris Elba to Julie Waters to
Eugene Levy.
Eugene Levy, that's it. So yeah, we've had all these people at Envy, and it's great, it's exciting, and we did years ago we did a Victoria's Secrets show.
Oh wow!
And we had Lady Gaga in, and
shut up.
I remember I asked my reception lady at the time, I said, can you please stay a little bit later tonight? I'll pay you overtime, but there's some guest that's coming in that kind of needs to be looked after a little bit. And she was kind of like, oh God, really? Do I have to? And I said, well, I'm paying you overtime. It's up to you, but I it's going to be worth it. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And she went, oh, okay then. I mean, the following day, oh my God, she was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Imagine if she didn't stay, she would have been kicking herself.
She just went, I had the best night. She's such a lovely lady. And we were chatting about what she was wearing, what she's going to be wearing on this show, and all that sort of stuff. And I said, yeah, and you got paid for it as well. And she went, I know. So that's the kind of fun.
What's
fun
it
bit.
like working with people like that?
I mean, they're just people, aren't they?
They
really?
are just people,
At the end of the day, they have a profession, and they need to do what they need to do.
Fair enough.
So, yeah, I mean, of course they're well known and they're in the public eye, but ultimately they are just doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
A job that they want to do really well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, of course it's fun.
Yeah.
But it's things can go wrong,
Yeah,
so you have to just be there for every eventuality just to make sure that things go right.
Yeah.
But I guess that's TV and showbiz.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, but from hearing about your journey, it almost feels like, first of all, you just had an open mind about things, and you almost like tumbled forward to things. Yeah. Did you anticipate having such a senior position and such an important role? Like, was your aim in life to become creative director, co-founder of these things?
No.
Or did it just happen?
It happened.
Are you happy it did?
I'd like to. Yes.
Yeah.
I'd like to say that this is a complete journey from the age of 12. I had it all sorted out, all lined up. Unfortunately, no.
No.
I mean, life is a journey, and you don't know what's going to happen. And well, we've had a chat about it before, but I had a terrible accident, and not that long ago. You cannot foresee or anything. So yes, of course you can have a plan. Yes, of course you can have an idea. And if you follow it and you get there, I mean, brilliant, of course. But life isn't always like that, and it does throw you curveballs. And, as a human being, humans are resilient.
Yeah.
And you can change, and things do happen for a reason. I think when I was younger, there's an anger if something doesn't go right. But then when you get a bit older, you're kind of going, well, this is clearly meant to be or not meant to be.
Yeah.
So what am I going to do about it? You have to be agile. You have to be able to, think, okay, this is clearly not for me. I need to do something else. Let's look at it. And yeah, being versatile and agile is a good thing. I mean, the accident I happened to me was just when a bat flew into my face. It's kind of like something you'd never really again foresee.
Yeah.
But you kind of have to adapt. I lost 9 teeth, I've got a broken jaw, split lip, and you're just going, why me? Why is this happening? I still don't know why, but ultimately in a way you had to look at the positive side, because it hit my mouth, if it hit my eyes I could have been blind, and if it hit lower it could have been I could have been gone. you just don't know. So when things happen to you, whatever it may be, if it's an accident or a career path or a choice you have to make, to move, stay, go, do, you just have to go, right, okay, what's my gut saying? What do I need to be doing here? What am I need to be thinking about? You know, what is good for me? What's going to happen? So you just you just don't know. So with regards to a career, then yeah, of course, if you've got it all figured out, by all means, great. But something will happen along the way that you will never foresee, and that will just, you know, get you on a different path or do something that you never thought. So yeah, me being a creative director is not something I had in the plan.
Yeah, no.
But, you know, happy days. It's good,
Yeah.
you know, it's a journey, and it's interesting.
Yeah.
Really interesting. So I'm very lucky.
I have 2 more questions for today.
That's
And
okay.
then we'll wrap up. What do you see for the future?
Really good question. Depends, I guess. On some days I'm like, all I want to do is sit down, have a nice cocktail, and do nothing.
Yeah.
And then other days I'm like, well, actually, I wouldn't mind doing more on like diversity, and I mentor. So I do a lot of mentoring, and that side of things is really interesting because you learn a lot as well, really, from your mentee, weirdly enough. And it's, you know, that side of things interests me. I'm going to take each day as it comes, really. You just don't know what's going to happen. I haven't got a clear trajectory where I want to go, but I'm open. And I feel like the older I'm getting, the more open I am to certain ideas and certain things coming my way. So I'm going to see what's going to be there, because I've had so much happen to me. I just don't know. But the future is going to be different. But I'm kind of excited about it.
That's lovely. That's wonderful. And my final question for today is that advice to the little girl sat on that patio there. What would you say to her about what her life is going to be like? What she should expect? Some advice? I don't know. Like, what would you say?
Go for it.
Yeah.
It's kind of quite simple, really. When there's an opportunity, take it. Network, speak to as many people as possible, open your eyes, enjoy the world, and, you know, take it as it comes. You can make as many plans as you wish, but something will throw, you know, a spanner in the works, and things will change. And be adaptable and go with it, and enjoy yourself.
Amazing. Well, I have to say, I think everything you were saying, I was just like, yes, this is exactly what this podcast is about. This is exactly what I want people to hear, because it's just such a breath of fresh air for people to hear someone say, yeah, it took a lot of work. It took a lot of sacrifice and a lot of time, because the whole reason I started with this was because I saw people like yourself and I envied them. No pun intended there. And I was like, it just looks so simple. But I wanted to learn the intricate details of how it's actually possible. Because nothing is simple in life.
No.
Nothing comes overnight. And I think I personally need the constant reminders that it takes time, because I'm so impatient. But this was just such a lovely conversation, and I'm so glad you came on.
Thank you. I'm really appreciative that you had me here.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for listening today, and we will see you next week.
Tink you.
Bye-bye. Just keep it on, because, you know, I like to get a little chat afterwards. Anyway, how did you think it went?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy.
Good.
You make it easy.
Good. That's what I want.
It's just a chat.
It is just
so
a chat.
I have no idea what I said.
You honestly, everything you said, I was like, yes. But it's funny, because, like, you are just so open to things, and...
Well, yeah, you kind of have to be, really.
Yeah, I think it's so nice, though, because, like, even though you are such a successful person, you're very relatable. Like, I don't think you have any ego to you.
No, well, I mean, I guess that's maybe a little bit of the foreign in me as well. And also, I don't know, I'm quite naturally, perhaps
Humble?
maybe empathetic, I think I was going to say,
okay.
not humble. But humble. But yeah, no, it's like, I don't know, I can relate to to people. I find it quite nice talking to people, and I don't know, like we all start somewhere.
Yeah, we do.
I didn't get there, you know. It's a journey.
Yeah.
So I just don't know. I like watching other people's journeys as well.
Yeah.
And I like encouraging people to do what they feel is what they want to do.
Yeah.
When you started talking about your podcast, I was just like, it was overflowing, you know, the energy was just like, blah, 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 and I just thought, this is brilliant. No, it's great. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So, and look at you now, you know, you've got people coming in all the time, doing all this, you know, talking about their careers and talking about work exactly as you thought.
Well, someone actually reached out to come on, which is the first time that's happened, which is really cool. So someone
nice.
There's a store in Hove that does like lighting, and like they've been around for like 15 years, and she's like, yeah, can I come on? And I'm like, yes. But I'm like slowly like setting in place like goals and stuff, and I just really, I'm like writing out this insane list of people I want to have on, like most absurd people in the world. I'm like, Dan Levy, I want this person on, I want this person on. But like, you know what, we'll dream big and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, because the thing is, you know, it's a bit like Stephen Bartlett. He started out, and then all of a sudden you've got now all these amazing, you know, people getting on this podcast. It's just, you evolve, grow, figure out things out, and, you know, if it resonates with people, and then all of a sudden it takes one thing just and then that's it, and off you go. So it's great. You know, you had the energy then. I could tell. You were like,
I know, I was literally like,